It's now the second week of October. It's the second week of deer season for many, and a lot has changed or is changing from last week's episode. Just to catch you up on some of the latest, last week we talked about mock scrapes and trail cameras, and specifically putting mock scrapes in transition areas between bedding areas and food sources. In the case of that video, you saw a lot of footage on a new property I'm hunting this year with Brett Moore, and we put a mock scrape and a trail camera right between a bedding area and a large food source, which in our case was a large soybean field. We got a lot of great movement, including one of our hitless bucks, Leroy. He was working the scrape in the video. It was a great video. But again, a lot has changed, and we're going to have to change up our trail camera strategy accordingly. Now, last week was the first week of archery season here in Indiana. We actually did hunt that property. We went after those bucks in that soybean field based off the trail camera intel, again off that trail camera and the mock scrape in that transition area. And we were rewarded with seeing those bucks, but unfortunately as well after camera light and shooting light. But again, we did see them. But since then, for this next weekend of hunting, a lot is changing. And it has to do with those food sources. The beans are yellowing, they're drying out, and in many cases they're being harvested around us and most likely around you, which means for this upcoming week, October 10th through the 16th, we're going to have to change up our trail camera strategy and our tactics. Fortunately or unfortunately, based on the person, this tactic revolves around acorns. Now here in Indiana, with the addition of the crops coming down, we are experiencing a monsoon of acorns falling down as well. And deer, and more importantly bucks, are concerning themselves with devouring as many acorns as possible. As always, they prefer the sweet white oak acorns to the larger and bitter red oak acorns, but that really doesn't help us a lot, because movement is the key for this week, and movement makes our jobs as hunters really hard. We have to try to pin down deer as far as where they are moving. And when there's so many acorns in the woods, white oaks and red oaks, they really don't have to move very far from their bedding areas to find the food source. What are we as hunters supposed to do during this time? Well, we're not going to abandon our tactic with the mock scrapes. Instead, we're going to adjust the strategy and not the tactic itself. Instead of putting mock scrapes and trail camera sites in transition areas or between bedding areas in large ag fields or crop fields, we're actually going to move the mock scrapes and trail camera sites over to oak flats. You want to look for oak flats with prominent features that you can take advantage of if they are available. Take this 7-acre property for example. We've got a very large tract of timber with several oaks in it to our east, but we've got a small finger of woods on our property that leads up into 2 of our bedding areas. And where this small finger of woods is leading into those larger oak flats is the perfect spot to put a mock scrape. You can either put them in the prominent feature that you can take advantage of or the oak flat itself, but all you're trying to do with the mock scrape and trail camera site is catch the tiniest amount of movement out of one of your hitless bucks. In fact, this is the exact same scenario, exact same section of woods, and exact same trail camera set that I was faced with last year with one of my hitless bucks, Oscar. I put up a trail camera, I put up a mock scrape in the section of woods, and got 1 or 2 videos of Oscar working that scrape, which actually brings up another critical point for October: cold fronts. If you've got a cold front moving through mid or late October, bucks will be up on their feet. I waited for a cold front, I waited for the right wind, I based my hunt off that trail camera intel, and actually created opportunities to, in fact, for harvesting Oscar that year. So for this week, I urge you, if you have timber, take a really good look at where your oaks are, if your acorns are falling, where they are falling, and then scout the area for foot traffic and deer signs, and hang a trail camera, put up a mock scrape, and see where the bucks are moving as they're changing food sources this week. Next week's topic is going to rely heavily upon building off of this week's topic, which again is mock scrapes with the addition of acorns and a cold front.